Welcome back, Spy fans. We're here to talk about episode 2 of The Night Manager. If you missed our last episode about episode 1 or have never seen the show, you might want to go back and check that out. But just a quick recap of the premise so you're not lost if you don't want to go back and listen. Uh, there's a night manager by the name of Jonathan Pine who somehow stumbles on some really disturbing information about some illegal international arms deals and is kind of recruited by British intelligence to help take down this giant arms kingpin, Richard Roper, played by Hugh Laurie. And our hero, who's the night manager, is played by Tom Hiddleston. Um, Basically, episode 2 is setting up two simultaneous storylines going on. One's the process of setting up Pine to infiltrate Roper's ranks, and the other is Angela kind of, I don't know, what would you call it, bolstering her ranks, putting her ducks in a row, maybe is a good way to describe it.
Yeah, she's setting up her side of the op.
So it kind of, the episode starts out with these like gorgeous, lavish shots of Roper's boats and his property and his islands. But, story wise, we get this kind of cool little alone moment with Jed Marshall, who's kind of like the main love interest at this point. Or he's Roper's main squeeze. I'm not sure if they're married, but I know it's their son that she's taking care of.
Not married, and it's kind of weird.
Married.
Kind of weird. She actually refers to him by his last name. She calls him Roper. She doesn't call him Richard or Dickie.
Oh, well, there goes more with the nicknames. I guess it's just a fun circle to be in. Everybody's got a nickname, right? But we see her have like kind of this internal conflict. She gets on a phone call with her mom, and they're talking about a boy, and I guess she's been sending money, and the mom's asking her questions, and they have a little fight, and the mom just basically calls her a whore. So that's kind of how we set up this episode. Is clearly not everything's like hunky dory on Team Roper.
Yeah, I noticed that little what I'd call like the C story maybe isn't gonna come back into play here. So it's just got to be set up for something later in the series.
Right. I just thought it was like a little interesting. That's how they opened, and it's definitely set up for later, like you're saying. But it was like it kind of hooks you before we even get down the road to everything else. But that's what kind of leads into the flashback story. They all go to like this lavish dinner, and there's two kidnappers that grab Roper's son and want money, and they're going to take him, and we get this giant flashback of Angela basically recruiting Pine, and this is kind of where I wanted to start, really sinking our teeth in, because we ended last episode talking about the recruitment and how we felt about the motivations that Pine might have had and how Angela played on them, and I think there was some really hefty language where she actually gets the close of the sale, so to speak. She's like, she found a book that was his dad's, and starts messing with it. She's like, look, you know what? You need to do this. You got to nail this guy for Sophie. You got to nail him for your country, and you got to nail it for the man that owned that book, which it's like his dad's book, so it was like very personal for him. And she's like, you know what? There's like half a psychopath lurking in there, Jonathan. I want you to find him and stick to him. And it's like very like big appeal to the ethos and the pathos of Pine here. And I don't know, since that's how we ended the episode last time, what do you think? Do you think this really got to Pine from what we've been told? Is it believable to you?
I think it's fully believable. I still have this problem with the Switzerland encounter that we had in episode 1. He's got everything that she needs to be an agent. He had everything she needed for him to be the right guy for this job the day before he met Roper in Switzerland. Nothing has changed really by the fact of him meeting Roper in Switzerland, except, well, I suppose, I mean, what I'm trying to say is like, she could have tracked him down. In this case, she waited for him to call her number back,
right?
After having met Roper again in Switzerland. But You see what I'm saying? Like she could have nothing really changed except maybe, because on his own initiative, he did his own little crazy stuff with stealing some SIM cards, some
Mhm.
old ones, some trashed ones, and also writing down the numbers of some new ones and providing that information. So maybe that was what was supposed to be the connective tissue of her making the final click of, oh, this guy has got some moves
Yeah,
and
that's
is
kind of what I
using
think is
initiative. They,
right.
they didn't they didn't paint it on the board exactly the way I would have wanted, but I guess that's what's in their heads. I can
Right.
see that's what's in the writers' heads. I didn't see it on screen, but I can take it.
Yeah, I feel you. Like it was kind of rushed, but that's just the beginning of the story. I'm guessing is we got a lot more coming. They had to get from A to B, but yeah, I think you're right. I think the real connection is, he's ex-military. He clearly cares about right and wrong. He has a motivation to get revenge, and he, on his own initiative, called her. So it shows that he's somebody that like is that could be trusted, quote unquote. I guess I don't know. But regardless, he's recruited. He agrees, and her plan is she's going to turn him into a criminal. The idea is he's first going to start by stealing money from the Swiss hotel, then fleeing town, and she's going to give him a couple fake identities and set him up in this really small town. And he's just going to pretend to be like, like a James Dean rebel, riding around on a motorcycle, wearing leather jackets, beating up the local drug dealer to set up his own drug deals, fucking like the landlord's daughter, you know, like left and right, just playing the bad boy. And the and eventually he murders someone. So this
Well,
is kind of
they staged that, right?
right.
I
Yeah, yeah,
presume.
yeah. That's definitely something I want to touch on real like in a little bit. But I just wanted to run through her like plan. Um, After those steps are completed, she then like issues an international arrest warrant for him. And all of these things are going to be down in police like records and data files for Roper to find. And this is like setting the stage for the recruitment. Um, and
They did
that's just the.
they did screw up one thing there.
Oh, what was that?
She waited until Pine had been taken to Roper's Spanish villa to put out the international arrest warrant. She should have done that right away.
Right, right.
Because when you look into it and you look at the records and you find out this arrest warrant was put out, it's going to look super suspicious that it was put out the day after the guy showed up at your house.
Yeah, right.
So, yep.
Yeah.
I'm not missing any of these.
No, that's
I'm the goalie. I'm the goalie.
yeah, yeah. Blocking all shots here.
Right.
But that's the general plan is setting up this like I don't follow by the rules. I do what I want. Rules don't apply to me. I'm a badass. I start busting noses if I don't get my way. The idea is Roper has got such large reach. He would find these records and they have to be legitimate.
Well, talk to me about the language that she uses to prepare him for his role.
Oh, like just kind of what I described. She was like, "Look, the law doesn't apply to Roper, and it doesn't apply to you. You have to be the number 2 worst person in the world, because he can only be number 1, the type of thing. It's she and like I said, there's a half a psychopath lurking in there, and I need you to find him and stick to him. Type of thing.
That's a great line. It's a great line.
Such a great line.
I want you to scare the shit out of everyone, including me.
Oh, that's right. That was such a good line too. Oh yeah, including me. I want to be so panicked about you, and you're going to be terrified for your life every day for the next like 5-10 years or whatever. But we're going to nail this bastard. Yeah, it's pretty intense and really fun to watch. But like now that we kind of went over the overview, I kind of wanted to like talk about the town that he's staying in. And it's pretty quick that they brushed over, but there's a lot of interesting setups. Like he's going out of his way to show that he's like the badass and he doesn't fuck with anybody. And then they stage a death. Like, do you think like there's people just out there that are like, yeah, I'll die?
No, I mean, yeah, it's clearly staged, and the police have to be in on it.
Oh, oh,
I
I
mean,
see.
they kind of have to be, right?
Well,
I can't figure out any way, and that's exposure.
well,
Uh,
that's what I'm thinking. I'm wondering if I wasn't sure if he actually killed the guy because the guy says I'm expecting a lavish funeral. So I'm wondering if they just found a guy that was like, yeah, I'm happy to die, no problem.
I don't believe that for a second.
Okay, yeah,
I mean,
it was really confusing.
we never see the body.
Right.
We never see any characters that claim to have seen the body. So yeah, I mean, I think well, I I think the police have to have been in on it, and again, like I said, like that's kind of exposure.
Mhm.
Um, as in, like we have like movies like The Departed, where like they get the situation they're gonna get Leo Caps in there, and like only two people on God's green earth are even gonna know that he's a plant.
Uh-huh.
But in this case, like it's a little more realistically, like quite a few more people have to be in on the gig.
Mhm.
But I don't know. I mean, it's brushed over. It's a concern for me, but it doesn't detract from the enjoyment of the show. Uh,
Right.
I'm just saying, if you think about it, unless like you said, they found an actual suicidal guy, but I just don't buy that for a second.
Right. I was confused, and it kind of was brushed over, but whatever. We get there. He flees to Spain for the big plan on how he's going to get recruited. They're going to stage a kidnapping. We talked about a kidnapping earlier. She reaches out to a friend from the U.S. to get some agents that'll pretend to be kidnapped and then rough each other up so that he saves the kid's life. Um, uh, he wants it to be super real, so he breaks one of the guy's arms, which pisses off the other guy. And he was like, "You weren't supposed to hurt him." He's like, "It's got to be real." He's like, "I'll show you real." They basically like beat his face in with like a pot. You know what I mean? And saving the boy's life is what kind of gets Roper's attention. Um, I I don't know, like you were saying, like the arrest warrant is going to raise some red flags for you. Like you just gotten a warrant out for your arrest yesterday when you just started the job here in Spain. I don't know how much time has passed since the small town in Spain, but yeah, I don't know, it's a little contrived, especially since the boy heard uh, the guy say you weren't supposed to hurt him. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's going to come up later, but
Oh wait, oh no, the boy goes first. He tells
well,
the
no, no.
boy,
He says
"No,
go to your mom, and then he breaks the guy's arm, and as the kid's leaving out, the guy says you weren't supposed to hurt him, and then he says it's got to look real. So
I'm not too worried. I mean, it's a good flag, but I'm not too worried about it. The kid's scared out of his mind.
right, and he's pretty young. What are we talking about? 5, maybe 6, something like that. I mean,
He could be 7. He could be 7 or 8.
he was a little flirtatious with his mom. He
I
knew
don't
how to play
I don't
back
want to
at
give
her,
wine.
right?
I don't want to give wine to a 5-year-old.
Yeah, yeah, right. That's right. Yeah, that's pretty funny. Yeah. Um, well, this gets him in the doors, and Roper's going to take good care of him, but he's still suspecting him, and he's got him on guard, but he's also got like great doctors taking care of him. Um, there's not a whole lot other than like setting up the story of like we're going to find out who you really are, you know. But what I did like is when he's kind of conscious and he's talking to Corky, he's like, "I very much would like to leave." Like he's not trying to play the hey, can I work with you guys? He's like, I got to get the fuck out of here. I don't want to be here. I'm sorry I caused you trouble. I'm glad your boys are right, but hey, I got to get the fuck out of Dodge. You know what I mean? And I liked that play. I thought that was really well done on his part, especially after taking severe brain damage. uh, But one thing I wasn't sure, did you catch like the really buff, like, the heavy, talking about putting fizzy drink in people's noses would like get them to talk? Have you ever heard of that? I've never heard of that.
Well, I mean, it sounds like waterboarding with soda water to me,
Right.
which sounds like I don't know, the bubbles. No, the bubbles. I can't handle the bubbles.
I'll tell you everything.
Yeah, it sounds way worse than using normal water to me.
Yeah, it sounds worse, but I'm not. I've never heard that, and I thought that was kind of weird. But maybe it's a thing. Maybe. But it's pretty much the story. Like, we don't get a whole ton of tradecraft other than this big ruse that Angela, like the mastermind, plans out and like gets her boy in. But on her side, she's kind of setting the stage for her kind of situation. She cannot have MI6 find anything about this because she's pretty sure about the leak. Because as we know from episode 1, there's a leak somewhere because Roper caught wind of the operation and pulled out of the deal with Hamid. So she's like pretty much on her own, and she's only running like a small type of organization or something. I guess she had an old friend from America. Is he named CIA, or we just assume? By the way, he's a repeat. He was in Pine Gap.
Yeah, no, that was Steve Toussaint. Different dude.
Oh, he had the exact same presence and talked the exact same way and had a very similar head.
The big
Like his
giveaway
face.
to me though is like he didn't have our guy from Pine Gap didn't have Vulcan ears.
Oh.
Like,
Oh, no, it's not Pine Gap. I'm sorry. It's Homeland. I was watching that around the same time we were watching Pine Gap. Sorry.
okay, right.
I look like a fool, but whatever. It's fine. This is how things go here on Spies Like a. No, he's on Homeland. He's one of the top head dudes in the CIA.
Yeah,
In
I see
Homeland.
him. David Harewood. At some point in this series, he gets knocked down a notch to
Oh, like he gets
his
demoted.
old ATF desk.
I see. Well, whatever department he's from, they introduced him with this like enforcer exploiter speech, and I kind of wanted to get your take on this because usually, especially like when we talked about a Most Wanted Man, usually you want to exploit the bad guys. You don't want to like get rid of them because they'll just get replaced by another bad guy. And if you take advantage of the bad guy or watch them or let them know that you found them and then use them, you can get a lot more information and climb up the ladder. His speech is like, no, I'm more of an enforcer. You got to get them right away because if you start exploiting, the lines start blurring and they start becoming your friends and you're not really a good guy anymore. And you're not really doing the world any good by not stopping the crime, I don't know. What are your thoughts on this? Other than it was obviously a setup for Angela, who's obviously like, we got to get this guy, But yeah, what do you think?
I mean, it's certainly a good point. I feel like I've seen it explored better in movies like The Departed and Sicario
Uh-huh.
than it is here.
Right.
Here it just kind of sounds like a pretty speech. I'm not sure. What is he talking about? Like, let's not. I don't know. I mean, let's not exploit Roper. Let's put him away. Roper seems like pretty high up the chain. I don't think that should be a discussion.
Right.
But we're gonna find out. I mean, we have been given the hints that there are leaks in the British intelligence service that are feeding information to Roper. We've been given the strong hints, so we should be on the lookout for that. So in a way, it feels like his speech to the guys is kind of like the writer talking to the audience, as opposed to a character talking to a character. But I mean, it gives him some interesting stuff to say. That's all I really have to say about it personally.
Yeah, that's kind of like the first time I've seen something like that in a spy film, where it's like we're just gonna go in and get the guy. Like you usually have like some sort of like chain of exploitation to get to the big honcho, but he's like, no, we're gonna pin this guy and we're gonna take him in.
Well, actually, no, I quibble with that because actually, I think we have seen and we've given minus spy points to a lot of films where the move was to just like immediately pounce on someone that really just could have been a really valuable source of, even if not turning and exploiting them, but simply exploiting them by feeding disinformation. I
Right,
can't think
right.
of any examples right off the top of my head right now, but I know that I've given minus spy points to behavior like that in the past.
Well, definitely enemy of the state, but I'm saying like it wasn't like an ideal or it's like when there's like those big, exposition moments where they talk about their strategy type of thing. You never hear someone talk about being the enforcer like that. But we like one of the examples was that you're talking about was enemy of the state, where John Voight is just going in guns a blazing to like try and pressure Will Smith, but he could have just watched him for like a couple of weeks and figured out a bunch of shit. Uh, but yeah, no, you're right. We definitely did kind of catch some people making bad moves like that. Um, but but anyway, he makes
I would
this.
say it's a
Yeah,
tricky decision that you need to make case by case instead of having a set in stone philosophy.
that's a good point. Yeah, you got to
That's
adapt
where
to.
I would go with that.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, maybe kind of weigh the risks and the benefits. Do a little prisoner's dilemma guesswork or something. See what one of those matrix analysis chart type of things. Um, but anyway, she calls it. They're obviously good buddies from way back. She's like, I need a
Oh,
good friend
I think they were
with
romantic.
money.
I think they were
Oh,
romantically
absolutely.
involved. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, especially with his surprise about the baby. Um, absolutely. I just didn't want to be like, yeah, they were fucking. Uh, but she needs his money because he's U.S., and U.S. has like huge pockets. But I think the best move that they made, they go back in and he's asking, they actually go to MI6 and put on this like whole performance. Like he's asking for their help. He's asking for budget and resources. And he's like, yeah, we got these pictures. He's meeting with people and we think he's doing this. He's like, well, did anybody say that? Did you have a mic? No, we couldn't get a mic on him. Okay, so do you have somebody on the inside? No, not yet. And they're like, so you have nothing. The guy could just be talking about his kids and about what he's doing, the next time he's in the Bahamas. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure. No. We're not working on this. We're not spending budget on a like maybe when he's probably just hanging out with buddies. And the whole point was to throw off the scent that they have anybody on Roper because they definitely have a guy right up Roper's ass. And I love that line that Angela says. It's like I never thought I'd see an American who could look like a bloody loser, and it was great because there's obviously a leak. So what are they going to do? They're going to spread some misinformation that no, we don't have anybody. We're running around chasing our tail, like not doing anything. And I thought that was well played.
Yeah, very much so. Like it's a nice performance, and it presents some story opportunities to present us to some characters that are going to become more important later in the story. I mean, if
Absolutely.
as an audience member, if you're putting those kind of glasses on and starting to look for the mole, some prime candidates have already jumped to the fore of the suspect
Oh
list
yes,
at this point.
absolutely. Um, did you have any other points that you wanted to go over? Because that's kind of like the gist of the episode.
Yeah, I've got a
Is
handful. I've got a handful.
oh, wonderful. Let's hear them.
Um, I mean, it's pointed out to us here again that Roper is provably, demonstrably by paperwork connected to Iron Last, and that had a list of the weapons on it. So I'm confused why they act like they have nothing on him.
Right.
They have now in the last part of the first episode. That's where Corky, that's Tom, played by Tom Hollander. He's his role in the crew is slightly undefined, but head of asking questions seems to be his thing. we know that he made some phone calls that maybe he shouldn't have from Switzerland before they switched SIM cards. But uh, our guy Pine, he got his hands on both the old SIM cards and the serial numbers of the new ones. We will see that Angela Burr can present to, I forget if it's to her flunky or to her American friend, logs of phone calls
Uh-huh.
that Corky made in Switzerland. I'm not sure, where she got or where, if that was from the old SIM cards or from the new ones. Did the information of the serial numbers of the new SIM cards give Angela anything that she didn't have before? It's very unclear to me.
Oh,
Um,
I think the when he gave her the SIM cards, he gave her the physical ones and then wrote down the numbers of the new ones. That was the list. So I think she used that and gave that to the US guy, and they were able to, I guess, listen in on the conversation.
so my problem is, so if with that information in hand, why weren't they able to listen into all of Roper's crew, his entire crew's conversations all the way through? Well, oh, that's right, because the Switzerland meeting was over by the time he
Right.
he delivered the cards. But okay, but still, I just was confused, where she's getting that information. They also have a tap on Corky's phone in current day when they have uh recovered the quote unquote hero, uh Quince Pine, whatever is
Linder.
uh Linden.
Linden. Yeah.
Yeah, he goes through a lot of names in this episode for sure. So when he's calling around, when Corky is doing his investigation on the phone, they're able to tell who he called and what he asked about.
Uh-huh.
I was under the impression that they didn't have this kind of access to the phone conversations that Roper's crew is making. If they have that, why don't they have more?
Right. Um, uh, that's a good point. They would be able to, if they can listen into those conversations, they should be able to listen into more. I'm guessing that they had that access through the numbers that Pine had given them. But for your point of if they had the documents, she turned those over to MI6. And then her supervisor was like, there is another angle. We use him so that we can watch him rather than scare him away and have someone worse take over. The whole exploit concept. So I think that's what, even though they have the financial documents that obviously show Iron Last is arms dealing, um, I'm not sure that I don't know that she can do anything until they get something more concrete. I don't know. But that is a good point. That is pretty incriminating information. But I guess to kind of defend the show, they did have that in episode one where she handed over the documents, and then they were like, "Yeah, we're not going to do anything about it. We're going to have a meeting," and then the meeting was canceled. So I'm guessing we're supposed to believe there's too much red tape for anything to get done yet.
Oh, right, on the in London.
Right, exactly.
Right, which looks super suspicious to her. I'm still on these SIM cards though.
Yeah.
Because what I was saying a minute ago about, well, she didn't get the serial numbers of the SIM cards until after the Switzerland meeting, whatever it
Uh-huh.
was, had taken
Mhm.
place. But he used the Roper used the code word. He's always, basically, his habit is to use the code name. There's a better word for what I'm trying to say, but to talk about agricultural equipment when he really means weapons.
Right.
And we know he was talking about combine harvesters in Switzerland, which again is code name for weapons. So even if she got those serial numbers later, those phone records still exist, and she would have been able to go in and see what because it seemed like there were enough SIM cards for every person in Roper's crew,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So she has all that information. She has all of that information about all the phone calls that they made in Switzerland. And
And after.
well, sort of and after, because like again, like I said, like if Roper is smart enough to say, hey, look, when we do the deal in Switzerland, we're going to burn all our old SIM cards, we're going to get a whole new set just for this deal, then by logic they would have burned that set as well after Switzerland. This is 6 months later. Tom Hollander's Corky guy can't still be using the same SIM card at that point. Can't.
Right. Yeah, if they're that careful that they're swapping out SIM cards every meeting, this would have been post Spain meeting, right? And there's a kidnapping, you would swap out your SIM cards. So you're right. How do they have access?
Listen, I like the show. I'm just saying that I can see that the show is letting them have the information the show wants them to have,
Right.
without letting them have the information the story doesn't want them to have, and it doesn't actually like super add up. Like why,
Right.
why they can tap this phone at this time but not the other phones at other times, or check those records, etc., etc. That's all I have to say about it. Like the A story to me in this episode is setting up his backstory, and it's very elaborate. And it's the first time that we've gotten to see this much work put into creating a backstory, because movies are too short to do this kind of work,
Yeah.
to spend this kind of time. So even if I did have like some quibbles with it, it's really nice to see.
Absolutely. Yeah. We probably would have gotten like a montage and then moved on if this was a feature.
The fact that he's had 3 identities that they know of, by the time they get their hands on him, is played as a strength instead of a weakness, which is ingenious.
Yeah. Absolutely. It
Um,
looks super suspicious, but they're trying to paint him as like this. I don't follow any rules. I do what I do, and I'll survive. I know how to survive out there, and cover my tracks, type of thing. But it
right,
also makes Roper feel superior because he's able to find all that out and figure out about him.
right, yeah, exactly, like the whenever you're conning someone, the most important, like, number one rule is that they always have to feel like they're conning you.
Yeah,
They always
right,
have to feel like they're outsmarting you.
right.
It doesn't work any other way.
You got to build that confidence.
Right, yeah. Well, that's what con is. It's confidence,
Yeah.
man.
Yep.
Um, so this is going to be a jump ahead. We did talk about like how he's insisting on I would like to leave. I'm not happy to be here. Okay, I got 2 quick things on that. One of them is jumping ahead a little. One is like he forgot to evince any surprise on his part of like, what the fuck? You guys are the people from Switzerland? What the hell's going on here?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, I didn't think of that. No, that's a really good catch. You'd think, be like, how the fuck did you guys get here? It
Right.
makes it
By the
looks
end,
really
by
suspicious.
it's at the very end of this episode is when Hugh Laurie walks in. But up until now, like maybe he just would have at least pretended to recognize Tom Hollander from
Uh-huh.
Switzerland and
Right,
act a little weirded out by that.
right. That's definitely a good point. I did not think about that.
The other thing is, I was thinking, and this is jumping ahead to the next episode, but I don't want to forget it. Uh, I think the big dick energy play on his part would be to somehow say, "You owe me $100,000, motherfucker."
Hey,
Like
yeah. Right.
that would be obviously you'd have to have some setup of how does he know, what was the situation, what was the ransom, etc. But like, just throw that a little in the conversation, and if he can find out that, like Hugh Laurie is like, thank you for saving my son's life. If I want to play the real second worst person in the world,
Right.
I'm gonna be like, fuck your son. I saved you $100,000. Why don't you pay
Why don't you
me?
give me 50?
Why don't you
Give
pay
me
me?
50.
No, fuck that, dude. 50 is what like the 100th worst person in the world asks for.
Yeah,
Second worst person in the world asks for 100.
Right.
And also like, yeah, send me on my way.
Oh, I saved your son. That's at least worth 100. You were gonna pay 100. I saved his life. I at least owed 100, and then the negotiation began. Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Great episode. We're finally gonna get to see Hugh Laurie and Hiddleston share some, genuine screen time in the next episode, and I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, that's gonna be a lot of fun. Like, we only got like a little taste, and that's our big cliffhanger. We'll find out who you are. So I'm excited for the next episode.
Oh yeah, so far the show is 2 for 2 on excellent cliffhanger lines.
Yeah, right.
Let's see if they can keep that streak going.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, see you guys in a week.
Yeah, that's the Night Manager episode 2. Join us next week for Night Manager episode 3. And give us a like and a follow on Twitter and Facebook. And we'll see you next week.
The preceding transmission sampled the song Enter the Party by Kevin MacLeod and sound effects from freesound.org. Attributions and links are found at spieslikeus.net.